In this video, we are going to go in depth on an important part of the branding process, which is mood boards. We will go over how to create them, how to nail the client's vision, and I'll be sharing a few tips and tricks that will help you save time during the whole design process. P.S. Make sure you stick around because there may be a freebie available. Just so everyone's on the same wavelengths, mood boards are used within the design process of creating a brand to give a visual direction for you as the designer and to also narrow down the vision for your client. Wondering where this stage fits into the overall design process? Well, here's a quick snapshot of my personal process. As you can see, the mood board stage is at an important part of the design process right before you design. So acing this will give you, the designer, clarity on what the client actually wants, saving you time when actually designing the branding, and avoids comments from clients like this. Now we know about the importance of creating the mood boards, let's jump into the process. So the business we will be creating the mood boards for today specialize in vegan sweets. They do have a vision in mind, but are open to suggestions. Just a little caveat, the stage before actually creating the mood boards, which is the brand strategy, is a crucial stage in setting the right direction for the brand with the client. I won't dive deep into it today, but if you would like a dedicated video on this, please let me know in the comments. For your reference, here's a snapshot of the brand strategy. Feel free to pause and read through it. So today I'm going to be creating 2 different mood boards for this client. I suggest creating between 1 to 3 mood boards. I usually like creating around 2 because this allows me to throw in something a little different that the client may not have thought about for the creative direction. So let's head to the desk and start designing the mood board. So it's good to know that in the inquiry stage, I get potential clients to send me over their own Pinterest or inspiration board. This is just so me as the designer can see exactly what the style it is that they envision and to make sure our styles match. Obviously, it is our job as the designer to steer the creative direction and give them advice about what style will fit their business perfectly. So from this, I will then do lots of research and I will create my own Pinterest board full of lots of inspiration for this desired direction. So I'm going to show you my example for one of the directions that I have created on Pinterest. Now, it's really good to remember to include these components within the Pinterest board. So first is imagery that connects with the brand. So for example, we've used things like sweets, sugar, people eating, vegan food, and an actual photography style for the brand. So we've got some really nice imagery on here of people kind of licking or eating the lollipops, sitting on a box. It just kind of gives a nice feel for exactly what the brand is going to entail. Next thing is typography. So whether you're going to go for a sans serif, a script, a retro feel typography, whatever it is, make sure it is clear on the Pinterest board what direction of type you are going for. And for this instance, we've gone for a more modern script, but with some personality in there. So when I was doing research, the norm was kind of the retro style typography, and I want to modernize this brand by adding in some really fun elements with the script and the photography. So the next component you need to remember is color. So it's crucial when you're doing the research to think about what the color palette is going to be. Is it going to be a really vibrant brand? Is it really neutral? So when you're choosing the imagery within the Pinterest board, make sure you're choosing similar images that entail what the color palette is going to be. And for this instance, you can already tell just by looking at the Pinterest board, it's very zestful, it's very fruity. We've got greens, oranges, and it is a very vibrant brand. And the last thing you need to include within the Pinterest board is packaging. So I actually like to find similar packaging with the style that I'm going for. So finding packaging that uses script fonts, finding packaging that uses that vibrant and zestful feel. I always just like including that because it gives examples of what the brand could be if they use packaging. So now we know the direction and style that we're going to be using, the vibrant colors, the script font, and the really fun photography. We can now refine this because the thing that I find with Pinterest Pinterest is that it can be quite overwhelming. There's a lot of imagery going on. So this is where the mood board process comes in. You can refine your Pinterest board and really hammer down on the style and the direction. So we're going to be heading into Adobe Illustrator and creating the mood board. Okay, so we are currently dragging in images over from Pinterest. You can either save these to your desktop or you can literally drag and drop them if you're using a Chrome extension. And I am just putting them into Illustrator, ready for me to input them into the boxes. Once I've done this, I actually then like to categorize these and put them into their own sections so things don't get a little crowded. So we'll go back to the components that we use within the Pinterest board. It will be packaging, typography, colors, and photography. So now we've split everything up, we've got our categories, we can now start inputting the imagery into the desired boxes and actually start getting a feel for how the mood board is gonna look. It is good to remember here that it is gonna take a lot of trial and error. You will be moving a lot of images in and out and just trying to get a really great direction and style for the client to understand. So if you don't get it first time, do not worry. So whilst I'm inputting the imagery in, I thought it would be really good to remember that although your client may have sent you a specific style or they want a specific direction for the brand, it may not actually work for them. So within the strategy and the research stage, it is our job as the designer to figure out exactly what the best style is going to work for their type of business. So it is really good for you to explain why you have chosen this certain direction and back it up with that research and the strategy. You'll also find that a lot of business owners that come to you will go for a certain style because it is their personal preference, and it is our job as the designer to remind them that it is the business that we are designing for and not their personal preference. So through trial and error, we now have our finalized imagery for the mood board. Now there is a crucial stage next, which I use within my design process, which really helps lift and elevate this mood board. So you will notice that there is a white blank space in the middle of our mood board. Now I actually like to drop in the color palette here. So once I've picked my imagery, I'm now actually going to come up with a color palette that is going to complement this brand and really fit in with the style that we have chosen. So I am just getting my rectangle box and I'm creating some squares or rectangles within the center so we can start adding our color palette. And in order to create our color palette, I'm going to take inspiration from the colors throughout our mood board so that it matches really nicely. So I already had in mind that I really wanted to go for those really nice greens, those lime colors, because it fits in with this vegan sweet brand, but we also want to complement this with a pop of color with maybe the orange or a yellow, and then add in some really nice warm tones of those pinks and beiges. So that's exactly what we're going to do. We're going to just eyedrop with the eyedrop tool and we're going to figure out a color palette for the brand. Color palette is chosen and it is sweet. It looks really, really nice, and it's already lifted this mood board and actually given it a proper direction and a color palette that we could potentially use for the client. Now, another crucial stage that I like to do within this mood board process is actually manipulating the colors within the imagery that we have chosen with our color palette now. So in order to do this, you can use the appearance panel within Adobe Illustrator and actually add a box of color over this and either use the settings like hard light, soft light, multiply, and actually change the look and the colors of the imagery to now fit with your color palette. So I've just done what I've spoken about and I've added in some colors. I've changed the appearance by using that screen or the soft light or the hard light, and it has literally elevated our mood board. It now looks like all the imagery matches, they follow the same sort of color palette, and it just fits in really, really nicely. So if you aren't using that stage, make sure you start using it because it can really lift the mood board. So mood board is complete and is looking insane. So the next step now, what we want to do is add this into our brand strategy and creative direction document that we have curated before this stage. So this mood board section goes right at the end so the client can read through all of the strategy and the research and then can actually see a visual direction from the strategy. So within this, I have already created this so you can see it as an example. So you can see the mood board is slotted nicely on the right hand side of the page, and I've actually annotated some of the individual images so it is super clear for the client so they can understand exactly why I have chosen that imagery and what it means to their brand. It is crucial as the designer that we put things in really simple terms so it is really easy for the client to understand. So for example, the imagery of the sweets. I haven't just chosen them because they are the sweets. We've chosen that specific image because of the color, which then leads back to the color palette. So as you can see, it says green colors to symbolize vegan and handmade. We've also got some annotations on the script font, and it says 12s and loose script font to represent the laces and the sweets. Another one on the script font is to include those really nice loops within that script font to give off that fun and friendly personality. So when you are creating that mood board, make sure you annotate it so that the client has a really good understanding of what the imagery means. Once this is done, I then like to go a step further, and to the left hand side, I actually like to go into a little bit more detail and actually give a summary of the direction. So for this direction, I've put the direction is modern, vibrant, zestful and friendly, which is exactly what you can see from the mood board. It has a fun and uplifting feel to the brand, making you feel happy and wanting to be part of that brand. It has a nice mix between vibrant, bold, but still being professional, which is key here. Then next we've got typography. So we're going to be using a modern script that includes that loops and twirls to create that fun and friendly personality within the brand. Instead of using the obvious retro scripts that a lot of sweet companies are doing, we want to modernize the brand, and the script font does a really great job of doing it. Next is the colors. So I like to go into detail about why the colors have been chosen. So the different tones of green refer back to the vegan sweets. We've used a contrasting color of red, which actually is a popular color used within the food industry that makes people more hungry. Then we've got the really nice warm pinks and the beiges to tone the brand down so it's not too vibrant, and it also creates a really nice contrasting color against the really bold colors. So from this, it is really clear to the client exactly what direction and style we're going to go for. There is no confusion, everything is written there, it is visually there, and it's just really easy for the client to understand, and that's exactly what you want to do when creating the mood board. There is nothing worse than you creating the mood board, not annotating it, not giving them a summary of exactly what the style is going to be, because this might cause confusion for them, and then in the long run you might be going back and forth with the client because they weren't sure with the direction, you weren't sure with the direction. So just make it super clear for yourself as the designer and the client.
And now a word from our sponsors.
I am so fed up with having to buy fonts from different places that cost a fortune.
Have you not heard of Envato Elements? They give you access to over 27,000 unique fonts, plus they have amazing mock-ups, illustrations, plus more.
Thanks, Abby. I will never need to spend a fortune on fonts again.
If you are interested, be sure to click the first link in my description. It not only helps you as the designer have access to thousands of assets, but it also helps the channel too. So thank you. So that is the first mood board complete, and I'm really happy with how it turned out. We are now going into the second mood board creation, and I've already created a Pinterest board for this so we can start getting all the imagery into creating that mood board. So within this one, it is going to be a slightly different style, and it is going to be a little bit more toned down than all of the vibrant colors we saw in that first mood board. I think it's really crucial to give two different options of the mood board so the client isn't confused with them being too similar. So in this instance, we're going for something that the client may not have thought of. So from the Pinterest board, I have done the exact same process with the previous mood board, and I have created my very own mood board, which you can now see. As you can see, it is a lot more toned down, and the focus for this one is a lot more on the illustration. So in the other one, there was no illustration. The focus was more on the script typography, whereas this one, we've got some really nice personality coming in with those illustrations. So it's kind of giving the client two different options that they can choose from. So because the type is very playful, the colors have been toned down slightly, so it is not too overpowering. But notice how I have still kept very similar colors to the first mood board, and I've just changed the colors to a more cooler tone. So for example, instead of having that vibrant red in the first one, we've now got that cool tone of blue to give it a different feel to the brand. It's also good to remember here, within the previous Pinterest board that the client first gave me, this creative direction wasn't in there, and I think it's really good to show your expertise as the designer, do the research and find a style that they might not have thought of of and actually add it into the mood board to get their reaction and see if it's a style that they want to go for. I've actually had incredible feedback from previous clients saying that it's exactly what they needed for me as the designer to steer the direction and give them options that they may not have thought of because they probably came in with their personal preference, with a style that they thought they wanted, when in fact it wasn't right for their business. Second mood board is complete and it is looking incredible. So now you know the process of what we're going to do next. We're going to take this mood board and we're going to add it into our brand strategy and creative direction document after the first mood board that we have completed. So I have already gone ahead and annotated this. I've added in the summary, all about the typography and the colors that we have used, and I will show you on the screen so that you can pause and have a read through to see the difference in the mood board compared to the first. As you can see visually, it is a lot more toned down. There are a lot more cool tone colors. The typography is different. There is no longer that script font, and it gives the client a really good understanding and direction of the two different styles that they could choose for their brand. So that is the two mood boards complete now, and we would just send this document off to the client for them to give us feedback on the direction that they want to go for, whether they want to tweak the mood board or if they're happy to go with one of the directions. It's really good that you do that brand strategy stage before, so they have all the strategy and research, which then backs up the visual mood boards that they see. The last thing that I do want to mention is there is no right or wrong way of actually visually presenting your mood board. So if you find the 9x9 boxes too restrictive and you like to use a more collage style or a stylescape, then do what works for you and your design process. So if you want to try out the mood board process, then I actually have a free creative direction and mood board template that you can download from my design shop. I will leave the link in the description. And that was my complete mood board process that I go through with my own design clients. I actually never used to do this process when I first started designing, and I found I used to go back and forth with my clients a lot more because the creative direction was so unclear. Whereas now with the mood board process, it is clear from the start what the style is going to be, which saves me a lot of time in the long run when designing. Let me know what your mood board process looks like and a tip you'd give someone trying to design a mood board for the first time. If you did enjoy this video, make sure to give it a big thumbs up, hit that subscribe button, and I will see you at the next video.